Hey everybody, Ken Jordan here. A slightly pissed off Ken Jordan today. Yesterday I told you, well actually earlier today, you haven't probably even heard it yet, go listen to my last video, The Luckiest Man Alive, just to keep that one in order. I believe that's SCP Disclosure 15. That's about SCP-503. Go look that up. I was talking about some stuff, and I am going to give you an update on Myers, but I'm just going to do that one separately. That one is messed up. That is not a good thing. But we're all still reeling from that here, back at the office. Everybody, I'm still in the same safe house. I'm coping. I'm doing okay, but yeah, it's taking a toll. Anyway, I mentioned that I was going to lay things out and then start working on some special programs for all of you, because I need to do this for myself anyway. Well, I promptly read the Riot Act earlier on that, just moments after I put up the video. If somebody had to have used a computer to parse it, that or they just downloaded the information from my computer and stole it flat out. That shouldn't be that easy, but if you've been listening along with these things, you know that people have gotten into my stuff already. It could have just happened again. Heck, for that matter, it could have just been psychics telling them that something was up. These were not all people who have any reason to be calling me. Not former employers, not the people that I'm used to working with, or anything like that. That they were able to find me at all is impressive enough, and I do not give two fine geese over that one. I almost said something a little nastier, but this is a family show. By the way, this isn't a family show at all. If you're under, say, 12, you should probably just not listen to this. Honestly, kids, I don't know what to tell you if you're that young. You know what? Screw it. Listen away. It really can't hurt. Okay. Anyway, I promised I'm gonna give you guys, the lowdown on this as best I can, and I'm gonna do that now, even if people did in a less than friendly manner, just threaten my life several times. More than one person, too. From more than one agency, so... yeah, lifespan of the Mayfly, right? Oh well. The point here, just for those of you listening out there, is that it doesn't matter anymore. Maybe you'll kill me. Maybe you'll get the order coming down. Maybe somebody in the new administration wants me gone, but... who cares at this point? There's been so much happening. There have been so many huge things going on that you've been having to cover up. You know this is going down. Okay, I'm gonna lay this out. I'm gonna give it to you in a few easy-to-follow steps. This is what you've been listening for. First of all, we're going into a region of space, generally referred to as the photon belt. It has nothing to do with photons. The photons are a reflection off of the quality of space we're going into. We're going into the border zone of this quote-unquote photon belt. Again, it has nothing to do with photons, and it's not a belt, that's a border area. What we're actually seeing there are reflections of light from all over the universe at this different point in space. I think that like how you see reflections off of water, but you don't see them in water. Once we're on the other side, we're not going to suddenly have light all around us. The photons will not affect us. This is just a spot where they hit it, and some of them change direction because they're hitting a different quality of space. That's a little hard for a lot of people to wrap their minds around. Basically, space is not... the old idea of the ether is a lot closer to being correct than the idea of a true void. There is no true void. There is a background, which is space, that we have to pass through, and the qualities inherent in different regions in space, though probably similar all over the universe, are different in some areas. The thing is that we've just coming out of a pocket of space, which was different. It was, I don't know, thinner, calmer, what have you. It was easier to manage for the human mind. What we're going into now appears to be, and more than appears to be, is far more normal space. We're going back into the reality we were created for. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we were in a different reality. We were just in a different part of our local space. One where the quantum interface between the human brain, the nanotubules in the human brain, which allow interaction with the outside world and the information of the outside world, just was far, far weaker. What does that really mean for you and I? Well, basically it means that at some point in the not-too-distant future, some of us, not a whole of humanity, some of us, are going to suddenly find ourselves in possession of mental powers. And these are going to break the world. Problem isn't really you and I. It's that other things exist and have existed within our world, eking out, barely, a way to survive from the thin, basically, for lack of a better term, magicless time we've gone through for the last 10,000 years. Pretty much since the fall of Atlantis. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, oh, but Atlantis, it's proven to just have been a story that wasn't real. Atlantis, Hyperborea, the island of Mu, they were all real. There are very clearly cultures that existed from that time and before. Cultures that had flying machines and space stations and bombs so powerful that we could see the remnants of the explosions, glass in the desert in different places now, buried glass that forests have grown up through, things that we have only ever found at nuclear blast sites. In fact, the name of the glass, the form of glass, is called trinitite, nuclear bomb blast glass. Well, it doesn't take a nuclear explosion. Any large explosion can do it, but it's gotta be big, and it's really rare for meteorites to do that. It can happen, but it's really rare. And that's only one sign. The thing there is that we've taken great pains to hide this from you for a little over the last 100 to 200 years. There was a time, let's call it the Dark Ages, when people generally more or less knew what was up with these things at the beginning. And then the church made a point of hiding all of these bits of information. Clearly, we don't live in the same world, was the thinking of the time. You can look back at what they're saying. They even began to teach that magic wasn't real, or worse, was evil. And, I mean, I'm saying magic, lack of a better term. What's really going to happen is that some of us are going to start to interface with reality very hard. Some of us will do so very weakly, and some of us will do it very hard, but under control due to the way that our minds work. The insane, the people who are not very dogmatic, the very creative, these people are going to be a real danger to everyone else. Unfortunately, we don't know exactly how at this point. There are also other things out there. There are things that aren't human. There are things that have been waiting to come back. There are things that old humankind could fight. Some of the records talk of them fighting and not always winning. Generally, this is referred to as something like the Darkness, the Lords of the Outer Dark. That kind of language is what you find in the old records. Now remember, we can only read parts of these things. Yes, you've been lied to about what we have that way and what you can read. The secret writings at Göbekli Tepe, see, I can say it, which was that Potbelly Hill in Turkey. All of the writings have been removed from the area, and all of them talk about things being different. As they changed out of it about 15,000 years ago, they buried their massive temple complex. Now, after that, certain things in Egypt were built. The pyramids were about 5,000 years ago, and I honestly believe that they were moved stone by stone using human labor, not using the power of the mind, and not using alien spacecraft at all. Could be wrong, might be aliens. But I think that really that worked down to the fact that if you have enough people working together hard enough to do something for a long enough time, they can get it done. But some things, like the Sphinx, are obviously far older, 10 to 12,000 years old. And the workmanship on it, well, it looks not that great now. If you can look at a reconstruction of it before all the rains hit it, and I know rains in Egypt, but it used to apparently, that was a much, much finer looking, very large sculpture. Which is neither here nor there. The point is that Göbekli Tepe was buried. When we started to unbury it, which we've only partially done, the writings that were there were removed. When they were translated, which took some doing, it spoke about why they did it. That the region of space that they had gone into was a dark zone, a dead zone. Think of it as getting 1 bar on your cell phone, if that makes any sense to you. Now we're going back into a region where in a very short period of time, we're going to start seeing 4 bars on the cell phone. The thing is that nobody, no human being, is aware of or ready for 4 bars on the cell phone. And it's more like getting 10 bars suddenly on the cell phone after thousands of years of holding it up to your ear and screaming, "Can you hear me now?" So, yeah, we're in for some fun times that way. Now, this is happening pretty much now. We're already at the edge of the photon belt. We're going into that region of space. I would say that you probably will start noticing effects inside 9 months. Some people are claiming, indeed, that we've been seeing these already. And that may be what went on with Myers. I've never heard of anything really at that level. It's pretty insane. I'm retired, and my former employers wanted to put me into an underground facility to protect me, as if that's going to work. It's not. So we're heading into this new region of space, which, remember, it's the one we're designed for. What you grew up with is not the way your life is supposed to be. You're supposed to have magical abilities. You're supposed to grow up as a child knowing you can do certain things, going to school, learning to levitate the stones to make the buildings, learning to cast out the healing rays from your hands, or whatever it is that those previous cultures had human beings doing. Instead, we have been told that we have nothing that way, that we don't have to school our thoughts, that we can just live in the sanctity of our own minds. But for a certain portion of people, that's about to externalize. Now let that sink in for a minute. This is only part of what's happening, but it's about to happen now, and it's gonna be big. Your own mind may be your worst enemy. Okay, let me give you a quick example. And this is one that I'm gonna pull in from my own life, including my rather awesome reaction to it and how I'm, a suddenly manly agent man and didn't respond the same way that the kids on YouTube do. In 2009, a creepypasta, which is a very stupid name, especially for scary stories, because, here's one. What's wrong with, I don't know, scary stories? Well, anyway, fine. So a creepypasta on the, I believe it was Something Awful forum, was generated, referred to as the Tall Man or the Slender Man. You've probably heard of this. Tall guy, loves to go after kids in particular. The stories vary, but in general, he messes with technology, causing videos to become all staticky. He shows up when you least expect him. Very often you can't recall what happened the next day, which, by the way, is very common with anything too different. I know I was talking about that near the beginning of things. That's part of why we've been doing the SCP readings. That part is just really true. If there is a Slender Man, and I'm going to go out on a limb now and say, there wasn't and there is now. Thanks, guys. We'll go over tulpas and energy beings soon, because learning how to make them might be very helpful to people, particularly since learning to control your mental skills and having an outlet for them seems to be like the only thing we're going to be able to do to help people out soon. So you may be required to learn how to do some of these things and then teach others how to do them so that they don't fill the world with monsters. Look, the current plan is for most of you to die. That's why they're not teaching you, by the people who know this already haven't been having school courses on meditation and how to control your thoughts, how to school your subconscious mind for positive effects. Because they figure that your neighbor is going to produce some zombies, or a werewolf, or a Slender Man, or a giant earthquake, or a warping of worlds from one place to another, and you're going to be dead or gone out of here, leaving them safe in their holes in the ground, as if their minds are better schooled than yours are, which is ridiculous. Anyway, I won't go into that. I don't know what kind of programs they have for their kids. I wouldn't have that information. I'm speculating, and speculation at this point is stupid without information. But anyway, it's on Slenderman. Yeah, okay, so we know we can track this down to a specific day and even a specific hour where the Slenderman myth started. It's fiction. It started solely as fiction. Since then, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have had real sightings of Slenderman. Now, some of these people, well, they were dreaming, or they were too drunk or high, or perhaps just a little bit too loopy for some other reason, lack of sleep, or maybe just being stupid, and they looked off into the woods or across the room and thought they saw a shadow that looked strange. Their brain fills in Slenderman instead of Bigfoot. Next thing you know, Slenderman sighting. The problem with this is that we have some video footage. We have good reports from solid people. And, well, my own personal experience with that may have been a dream, because I had been sleeping and then woke up to find Slenderman standing in the door of my room. That is also a time period where people often see the strange and bizarre of the world. You get a little bit of a DMT release in your brain, opening up that third eye at the cost of sleep, during sleep at different points, and then as you're waking up sometimes, not consistently. So my story, basically, I was sleeping in what is essentially a sensory deprivation chamber. The door opened itself up. I looked up. It was backlit at the time, and there was Slenderman standing there in the doorway. So, looking up at him like I was, because the bed was very low to the floor in the sensory deprivation chamber, I managed to croak out, "Oh, hey, Slenderman, how's it going?" Because, like I said, your Agent Ken Jordan is a bit of a badass. Then, disappeared. I woke up all the way. Maybe it was nothing. I've certainly seen other things like that and had firmer reactions to things. The point is, with that, is that Slenderman is fictional, but we're starting to see the fiction come to life. Probably as a tulpa, which is just a Tibetan word for energy being, thought form being. This is a thing that can be made, but we're starting to see even things like that show up with a more solid presentation to the world. And we're not even really into the new space yet. Again, we'll probably really start hitting the heavy zone in about 9 months, maybe 10 months. Once that happens, that isn't going to be the end point. That's when we're really going to start noticing things get very, very strange if you're able to see it happening. The thing is, with all that, is that it's going to be real. Okay, this is just part one of that topic. I'm not doing separate videos, so if you want to listen to this stuff, you can just listen to me ramble on for the half hour, 40 minutes it's going to take for the abbreviated format of this. I'm sorry, but I may not get a bunch of chances at this. The second factor. We're poised for pretty much economic and social collapse. We are being told in the United States very little. Everywhere else in the world, particularly in Russia and China, they're gearing up for a nuclear war. And I don't mean they're the aggressors. They assume that the aggression's going to come from us. but we are not being told about it. The entire world's economy is about to collapse, and we've been being lied to about that. This is real and measurable. You can go look this up online, because word on this has been getting out. This is something that people can see. Nobody wants it to happen, but you can see it gearing up. Yes, we have the highest Dow ever. Dow 20,000. But that's pretty much a paper tiger. We also have 8 people in the world who own half of all wealth. That in and of itself, even if all other indices were correct. I used that word correctly? Yeah, I heard Kate use it yesterday, and now it's stuck in my head. Anyway, even if all of the measurements are correct, the very fact that 8 people own half the wealth means that we're in serious trouble. Can you even just imagine that for a second? So, the economics, the war footing, and the fact that there are things going on behind the scenes where a lot of these people really want you and I to die. Now, if you pay attention to what was going on in part 1 there, you'll start to understand why they want us to die so badly. Normally, having us die wouldn't make a lot of sense, even to, say, fix global warming or something like that. Well, I mean, maybe, we could have fewer people, and that would help with overpopulation stress on the ecosphere or something. Clearly, nobody was planning on doing that. For the last few years, we've been hearing about just really wicked plans coming out from the top, where it's very clear that behind the scenes, the only actual plan now is massive depopulation. Well, guess who's not volunteering for that? I know, you and I, but also the people who are pulling the strings. And the reason they want a war to do it, not just because of the large death toll that a nuclear war would take with the fallout and everything, but because we've been programmed for a long time to accept what will happen in a nuclear war. We won't be able to communicate with other areas. The EMPs will knock out pretty much most of the world's communication grid. Remember, EMPs can be special devices, but all nuclear weapons are also EMPs. So, one nuclear war and we're done for that way. We're going to lose our ability to communicate. No internet, no cell phones. It's believed that the millennials will all starve and die without mommy and daddy there to powder their tushy and make sure they have their cell charger with them. I don't think they're that weak. I honestly don't. I think that we're gonna find out that there's a percentage of special snowflake young kids now who really were fed a load of garbage about how great they are, how no one has a right to have any opinion other than the one they want them to have, how this, that, and the other thing that turns them into a college ultra-liberal. Again, hey, I mean, I've mentioned this before, I'm more or less a liberal, right? And I'm on the left of Gandhi here. And I look at those people and realize that they are the new jackbooted thugs. But that's 3%, 4% of the millennials, of the younger generations coming up, whoever under the millennials. That's not all of them. They've just managed to get a lot of press lately. The real millennials are kids that, maybe they live in their mom's basement. They still live with their parents. They play a lot of video games because the jobs haven't been there. It's not because they don't want to work, it's because they can't get out there into the world. And this has created some bad habits. They get into the work world, they're not ready for what they're going to be hit with all the time. But saying that they're weak, that's just bullshit. Human beings are not weak, and millennials, no matter how pampered they were last month, stuff starts to hit the fan, they're suddenly going to turn into badasses just like all of humanity has always done. When the choice is become Mad Max or die, most people kind of band together and become way more Mad Max than they do grave filler. That's why we still have a human race. And I honestly expect great things from the younger generation. Especially if you're listening to this, don't buy that special snowflake crap for you. I mean, seriously, don't be a little wimp. Don't try and apply your own morality to everyone else and force them to your will, because that just pisses people off and isn't gonna work. It took me a long time to realize myself, but I'm not gonna sit here and lecture you guys. You guys aren't that bad though, okay? When we're looking at people who, the younger generation, will be our best chance for people who can adapt, who can learn to see what's going on. Because remember, just because it starts in somebody's mind, just because Slender Man is a story, doesn't mean that once Slender Man starts to actually exist, that we don't suddenly have to deal with Slender Man in reality. To that end, we need to come up with a way to kill Slender Man, so you guys get on that. The people with the mythos have kind of left that really open, but we need a silver bullet, or maybe bullets that you carve a special symbol or sigil on, or a knife that you can put that on, maybe a stick, you like wood burn it into the stick, whatever the sigil is that we decide on. Then when you hit Slender Man with it, or stab him with a knife, or whatnot, you can, I don't know, lock him up for 100 years, or something. They've already started with the idea there's more than one Slender Man, so, yeah. Need to get on that story world, but that's for other people. Right now, though, I'm sorry, this is the problem with all of this. It's so big, but part one, weird stuff can happen because of the way that we're formed. Remember, though, this is just us going back to the way it's supposed to be. We're just not ready for things to be that way anymore. We've all grown up. If you're listening to this, you've grown up in a world that didn't have that kind of magic. Now real magic is coming back, and surprise, you're actually a magician. But now you have to learn to do the things that are needed. And some of you, of course, are going to turn into monsters. It would be fun to say that, the doubters, the conservatives, the people you don't like are the ones that are going to be the monsters. That's not exactly how that one works. If you're a monster inside your head, that's probably going to come out, even if you repress it. So, yeah, if you're a violent, horrible person, even if you pretend to be nice outside, it's probably going to get some people killed. I suggest starting meditation and working on being as kind to people as possible. Part 2 was the economic and war footing. That brings us into part 3 and 4. Part 3 of this whole thing is that we're about to have 2 or 3 pretty massive plagues be released. We don't actually know who's going to do it. We do know they will have a tremendous death toll, and you have to be ready to avoid other people and manage things like any other massive plague. But remember, these are probably going to happen while the world is starting to go sideways and melt down. But Agent Ken, how do you know this? Yeah, some really good psychics have found it. Plus, there's some information from behind the scenes where people are just planning to release stuff. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe we can stop it. The same with war. Maybe we can stop it. What we can't control is going into this new region of space. What we can hope for is that it'll be different than I've thought, and some people have said that it might be. That's why we have a range of 2 to 7 years instead of hitting this in 9 months and everybody dying. So there's some hope. Maybe we can hold this stuff back for a while. Maybe other people behind the scenes can hold it back for a while. What we can't count on is that lasting forever. No plan so far really has that. Part 4 is basically just that we have 6 incoming bodies from space, which 2 of them look like they're going to hit us, and the other 4 changed direction on their own. This doesn't necessarily mean they're spaceships, but huge bodies that suddenly change well away from the sun and go in a different direction. That's kinda, yeah, that's indicative of something going on. Now that might be good or bad. Every alien theory is based on the fears and hopes of the people who came up with it. What we know about aliens is that they're aliens. That probably sounds stupid, but they're going to respond in an alien fashion, in ways that we don't understand. That's the point of being them. They don't exist in the same fashion, and they're probably waiting to come here until we're in the more normal envelope of space. Now, this doesn't mean that there haven't been forward scouts or bits of intermingling realities or whatnot that have allowed us to be watched or to be seen, but it really seems like something is coming from space. A few episodes, I don't know what to call these things, ago I mentioned it's everything. Everything is happening all at once, and it really is. Also, rapid onset global warming. If you're one of those people out there, it's like, well, there's no proof of global warming. Well, that's because you haven't paid any attention to science. You've been told certain things, probably by the same people who would tell you that all this psychic woo-woo bullshit is actually bullshit. That it's woo-woo, that people make ghost noises or something instead of having scientifically measured what's going to happen. Even if we escape everything else, inside of 10 years, we're going to have to deal with massive superstorms, massive methane releases at the North Pole, horrible things going on in that way. Frankly, right now, the elites are counting on us actually gaining psychic powers to fix this. It was determined about 30 or 40 years ago that nothing we did could actually change the environment the way that we were. So now we actually have a chance to maybe do something about that. The big problem there is that human beings are horribly undisciplined. It's not just me, and it's not just you, and it's not just the kids. It's not the millennials, it's not the baby boomers. It is no particular group that is undisciplined. We're undisciplined in this way because we haven't had to deal with things like this. I don't care if you're a meditator, a remote viewer who sits down 3 times a day and works on brainwave biofeedback. You're not ready for this to happen. The world is about to change so dramatically. And again, I can say these words, but that doesn't mean that people are going to be able to understand what I'm getting at. Matter of fact, they probably really can't. And if they heard them, they would just dismiss them as being the ramblings of either a madman or somebody spinning a tale. Worse, I am spinning a tale. I know this. I've told you over and over again that I'm telling you stories to try and teach you this information before it's too late. To try and get you to accept this information before it's too late. So a lot of the stories hold a lot of truth. Going over things like the fictional SCPs that people wrote, or talking about the fiction of Slender Man, and about how fiction and reality can sometimes overlap, and sometimes the fiction comes first. All told, we're screwed. If any one of those things was happening, is coming up on its own in a world where nothing else is going to happen, we'd still be in for a really tough time. We can't beat global warming the way things are going right now. If that were the only thing going on, I'd still probably would have taken retirement and just enjoyed my last few years before things get so bad that you know, we're just going down. The big thing there will be this year is this year should be cooler than the last few years by a good bit. If this ties up with one of the last 3 years, which were, for their year, each the hottest one on record until the next year came, well, that's not a great sign. If it beats it, if it beats, say, 2016, if 2017 is the new hottest year on record, then we probably have 7 years left just because of that. We're probably going to see the next year grow at an exponential rate, and then for each year after that, we'll just see exploding growth that way. On the good side, maybe our minds can change that. Maybe we can just undo all of that damage that's been done in time going into this new region of space. Several large alien fleets possibly coming, large comets or asteroids about to hit us. Well, maybe we can do something about that. Certainly a planet full of people who have newly rediscovered magic have a better chance than not if they can school themselves at all. The thing there is that you can't school yourself for something you haven't really come up against before. Not easily. In all, this pretty much means that most of us aren't going to make it. But maybe we can, or maybe some of us can, or maybe we can just learn to wrap our minds around enough of it in time that some of us can gain enough control to protect the others. I have no clue how that would work. We have some very basic plans for that. But really, the first thing that I've got to do is try and help with myself, everyone I know, and all of you to get through this. So I'm going to come up with some, I'll call them lessons, I don't know, for people to listen to. Things to work with if you want to. Some of them will just be me talking. Some of them will be the subliminals with entrainment frequencies to them. Some of them will be other things, probably. I'll try, if I can. And that's kind of a big if, because I wasn't kidding about getting several phone calls earlier, people saying that if I told you half of what I just did, I was going to die. But we're gonna die anyway. So I don't get a place in a bunker? Well, guess what? I know they were never gonna take me into a bunker. I'm not that great looking. I may have some skills, but I don't have the skills they want. I'm not going to be their barber. I'm not going to be the person who prepares their food. Though I am a decent cook, actually. I was just saying that. But, yeah, I'm not going to be there to serve them and wait on them. And at 55, I'm too old to be there to be the boyfriend of their daughter or to, make sure that some of the, elder statesmen that are going to be in there get their boy toy fixed every night. I'm way too old for that. I don't want to be too mean, but I mean, come on. Some of these people are not wholesome when it comes to their sexual preferences. So, yeah, you're gonna have me killed over telling real people the things that are really going on. Really. You're just gonna, okay. But if you take this down, I have ways of putting it back up, even if I'm not here anymore. Really, honestly, this information isn't going away. The best bet would actually be to promote it and make it seem like it's fake. Let this all go viral and get millions of hits, and then everybody will believe that it's not real. That's not gonna happen. Because you guys just never really been good at seeing things like that. Oh, on occasion. Oh, anyway, I'll try and get some stuff out. I'll try and tell you what happened with Myers. I don't know what's gonna happen. Next. I don't know what's gonna happen after that. What I'm gonna do then, I've got some other people online. If I go down, I can't promise anything. Maybe somebody will step up and keep the work going. Maybe not. So, yeah. Even without dropping names in this. Even without talking about Jacobson or Peters, Glynis, even without talking of any of our top scientists who have pretty much established all of this is going to happen without discussing DeepMind or anything, really. I've probably pretty much just sealed my own death warrant. Signed, sealed, and delivered. Yeah. Right now, I don't really care. Just saw a man. Strong man, good fighter. Better fighter than I am. Picked up bodily and thrown into a wall by what looked like a puff of smoke with a human form. Just insubstantial. You could see right through it. Didn't seem like anything. Picked him up. Did throw him at a wall, but merged Myers with the fucking wall. Exploded and nearly killed two of us. I barely walk on my right foot right now. I'm not going anywhere. I can't run. So, yeah, I'm gonna put this up, and I'm gonna keep it up. If you want to kill me, you know where I am. Called me right up using the landline here. So I expect I'll see you soon. Or see a drone strike or whatever it is you've got going on. So, boys and girls, look for house explosions somewhere in the continental United States within the next week. And if they don't get me, well, I'll talk to you soon. And if they do, somebody else will talk to you soon. Because this is too important to rest on the shoulders of one guy. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll be back. And if I'm not, just know that I'm here for you. Somehow. All of you. Always.